at the moment. And so this is kind of one of our, well, it says it right there in the interview, the big interview, UK EU live with our special guest, cosmologist Dr. Deanna C. Hooper. So I am trying to do these a little more regularly. It's Tuesday, and that was a great time for Deanna and I. So we're doing it, but I do want to do these broadcasts for Europe a little more often. I do have a couple of more coming up, actually, and I think those are going to be fun as well. Let's let you know who I am. My name is Revolution McInnes, and we are on HAPS. If you happen to be watching this on another platform, are there other platforms? I don't even know if other platforms exist anymore. I think HAPS is taking over the world. So, but if you're on another platform, go to HAPPS.TV, HAPPS.TV, like happiness, HAPS, and join us. You can broadcast immediately. It's a really great platform for creators or somebody that wants to maybe be an influencer, because you can get some income with sponsorship right away. You don't have to, I don't think so now. You don't have to have any special ranking or anything. I think you can get sponsorships right away. And you can also get some little awards through the coin system here. So that should be fun as well. Oh, wait, I have to pay a bill here real quick. Scooch Case. I'm going to show our little Scooch Case here. Go to Scooch Case, SCOOCH.com. That's scoochcase.com, and buy their cases. I would never. Ooh, see, when I say that, I sound like Christopher Walken. Cases, buy their cases. Look, they have this cool little wingman feature here on the back. And oh, look at that. This is the Galaxy edition even. You can see the stars. So what that little wingman thing does is it allows you to drop your phone. I love that. All right. Well, that was my fault, not their fault. And that was perfect. I hadn't snapped it in the case well enough. So anyway, Scooch Case, I promise your case won't fall out. That'll be our new slogan. And if you do buy one, hey, Nazim, great to see you. If you do buy one, look, this isn't like a little thing where I get like 10 cents or something if you buy a case. It's just an advertisement, and they're a sponsor. So if you do buy one, do me a favor and email them and tell them that you found it on the show. And as I said, I stand behind them 100%. And without further ado, and hopefully no more hiccups, Dr. Hooper, I think you know how to push the button to let yourself in. And let's say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be back on your show. It's been a while since I was here last time. It's good to be back. Always good to chat to you.
Yeah, it's always good to chat to you. And it has been a while. I think we first did this more than 3 months ago, maybe the first time.
Definitely. It was actually one of my first broadcasts on HAPS. Like, I'd only been on HAPS a month or so when I joined you. So that was probably back in February, March that we did.
Wow. But we've done one in between or not?
So we've done the first one, and then I randomly joined you at some point because you were having
a random
broadcast, and I just jumped on and took over your show for it.
That was a fun one because that was Dr. Hooper School's Revolution, and that was like 2 hours of just science talk.
Yeah, we were just both had free time. It's like, I'll just go talk science on this show. Why not?
That is really nice, and I appreciate you being here because you have been prolific in your conference attendance and speaking. Like, what's that like? Is that kind of a new period in your, because you're going from what are you now? What's your title like in the world of becoming a professor? Like, where are you in the process?
So I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher, which is that fun kind of limbo state that nobody really knows what it is. So this means that I've completed my PhD. I have a PhD in theoretical physics focused on early universe cosmology.
Wait,
now
everybody, that's awesome. Like, seriously, that's a hardcore science degree, and you have to be very brilliant to get that degree. I guarantee it. So anyway.
Yeah, so I've done my PhD. That part is done. I completed my
Yay.
dissertation, defended. I would like one day to be a professor. In between being a PhD and being a professor, there's this kind of limbo state where you jump around from postdoc to postdoc. And postdoc is just like postdoctorate, so after your PhD. These are positions that are either 2 or 3 years. You go to a university, you work there for 2 or 3 years, and then you hope to find the next one. Most people will do 3 or 4 of these postdocs and then hope to get a tenured position.
So, wow. I could take like
Comes,
10 years, right?
so on average, it tends to take about 6 or 7.
Okay.
There's a problem that the longer you stay in postdocs, the harder it is to get a permanent position because then you're seen as like too old, too academically old. But it's also the problem that there's not many positions. So every time you do the postdoc applications, it gets harder to find the next position, and fewer
Sure.
people make it. So every step is another hurdle.
What is happening in Europe with professorships? Like, it seems like over the last 20 years in the United States, universities, big and small, famous or not, have tried their darndest to get rid of tenured positions as a rule, I think. Is that accurate to what you've heard about here? And what's it like in Europe?
So before I go in that, just want to say hello to everybody who's joining because I was ignoring the commenters. Hey, Nazim, James, Helga, always nice to see you both. Thank you all for joining. Great to see you all here. Always need to say hello to everybody.
Exactly. Thanks all of you for coming. Nice to see you, Helga, Nazim, and James. The only ones almost as brilliant are those who join her. True. We do have the smartest science communicators on the planet on HAPS, for sure.
Yeah, we have a really nice group of science communicators here on HAPS, and we've recently started doing a lot of broadcasts together, which is really nice because then there's a lot of science happening.
It is.
HAPS. So yeah, the thing is for universities, it's cheaper to hire postdocs because they don't need to pay us as much. There's not as many benefits as being a professor. So people are leading towards that. There's also the somewhat other aspect that being a tenured professor is good in some regards, but in other regards, people who are tenured, it's very difficult to get rid of them. Like once they're there, it's very hard to make them leave. So even when tenured professors do things that they perhaps shouldn't, it's very difficult to get rid of them. So there are some people shifting more towards maybe we shouldn't have so many tenures, but I think it's actually the opposite. There should be more professorship positions. Because like my position currently as a postdoc is on the one hand very stressful, but also very precarious. Because my job is for 2 years. And then after 2 years, at some point I need to do applications, go through the whole process of finding the next job. The application season is generally pretty tough. And it's a lot of time investment. And that is time that I could be doing my actual research if I didn't have to spend it on this. So there's a lot of kind of research time that is lost with postdocs doing the next application and the next one.
And even just going from, a university in, Germany in your case to, I don't know where your university is.
It's supposed to be in Belgium currently. My
Belgium.
University
Yes, you are in Belgium. You're in Belgium. And the, but, if you're like anywhere, you're going from university, you've got to get to know the staff. You've got to get to know the systems, and it takes you 3 months to kind of get up to speed at a new place. And if you're changing every couple of years, then that's the science is suffering. I think the science is suffering.
Yeah. And it's also, the science is suffering because I have to worry about finding my next position. I have to write these applications and all of these things, but also in terms of what this does to us. My job security is like I have a job for 2 years. I don't know if I'll get the next one. I don't know which country the next one will be in. Okay, so just to mention that currently I do have my next position. My next position starts in September, so don't worry about me not having my next position.
Can this be actually announced, or can we just say that you have a next position?
No, it's like public knowledge. It's on my Twitter. So I actually have my next postdoc position is in Helsinki University. And I will start in October at Helsinki, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great university. I've heard a lot of good things about the group, and I'm really, really excited about moving to Finland and starting my next position.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I'm super excited for you too, moving to Finland. And if anybody wants me to do a live stream from Helsinki, give me some cash so I can go meet
Yeah.
you in person and we'll do a live stream together. I'm really excited actually about, because I'm going to do some, hopefully in our sunroom here soon, some people in Chicago that I want to interview. I'm going to bring them in, to the apartment, and we'll have the sunroom studio, and we'll actually get to sit across from each other and talk. So I'm excited about able to do that. So you're going to Finland, but I think you kind of touch on a point there that I would like to, and I know you would like to talk about too, is a little bit about that scrambling. Okay, so in the U.S., if you're a congressman, you only get 2 years, in office. So you immediately have to start fundraising to get elected again. And most of your time, honestly, is probably spent fundraising as opposed to practicing, running the government. So it's kind of that way for you, in that sense that, you get in there and wow, what's my next job going to be? I got to figure out what that's going to be. Where am I going to go? How am I going to get there? And that's got to be pretty stressful on
Yeah,
postdocs, right?
definitely. I just want to say thank you, Joy, for the One Love Award. And hi, Joy. I haven't seen you in a while. It's
Hey,
nice to see
Joy.
you here. So, yeah, it's not great. I think every stage in academia has different reasons that cause stress. And obviously, being a PhD student, you have the whole dissertation hanging over you, which is a pretty big stressful thing. But when you reach the postdoc stage, in order to do applications, we normally actually do applications like a year in advance. So the last time I did applications was in September, October 2020 for my next job starting September 2021, right? So if you consider that my position in Brussels was for 2 years, I got there, I worked for 1 year, and then I kind of had to pause my work for a month while I wrote applications for a position 1 year down the line. So in that regard, it's very stressful. Also, we know that not everybody makes the next postdoc position. There are more postdocs than positions available. So every time people fall out, some choose to leave, and that's perfectly valid choice. Some people want a postdoc and can't get it. So there is the stress of not just like where's my next job, but am I actually going to get my next job? And one place where it's a big issue is in terms of like long-term security, because I know that I have to move country again. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I can do this. But there are people, for an example, with family members, family dependents, where moving country every 2 years is just not feasible. Right? There's also the thing of what do you do with relationships if you have to move every 2 years? It's like, okay, partner, move to a new country with me. It adds another issue on top. It's always the thought process of, okay, I will do a lot of applications. Hopefully, I'll get the next position. Hopefully, it will be in a country I like. Hopefully, it will be in a group that I like. And you know that if you're one of the lucky ones who gets the position, you just do the same a few years down the line for the next position. So this complete lack of job security, it does weigh on you, right? Most of the time you don't think about it because you have to focus on your research, but it is always hanging there, that big thing. It's also just things like thinking of, okay, one day I would like to ideally buy an apartment at some point. And then there's a question of which country.
Right.
I cannot
be kind of nice.
that.
The country where you become a professor in ultimately would be good. Yeah.
That would be good, right? But then there's the other thing that we know that there are even fewer professorship positions. There's a lot of things involved here, but there is also a large factor of luck.
Well,
I'm getting a professorship position. Sure, go ahead.
Can I ask you? I'm always torn about competition. I mean, I don't, here in the States, over the last 20 years, everybody gets a trophy kind of thing, if you play baseball or whatever, and they're de-emphasizing, first and second place or whatever. And I mean, I really do think there's a place for competition. Two universities working on a similar project, it helps further everything, but it kind of sets up a culture to me of this competition, even for postdocs, of like, well, why are we spending millions of dollars training PhDs, and all of these postdocs get their PhD and then half or a quarter, whatever, drop out every year because there's new PhDs that are shinier, and, more wanted or whatever. And then you've been around for a while. So, I mean, to the extent that you can, because you're in academia, but I would say the system is very broken, and it did work 100 years ago when it was a bunch of white men, this is me saying it, running the thing and saying, well, I like that white guy over here, we'll make him a professor. And there weren't 12 other people that could be even white guys at that point. So it just doesn't seem like a very efficient system for getting science to the world.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, historically it did work, partly because in the past there were just fewer people going into higher education for a
Mm-hmm.
variety of reasons. And then the pool from which to choose from was smaller. But now we are actually in the most educated generation ever. Like we have so many new PhD students that there just aren't the positions available for them. I don't think the current academic job market is sustainable. This is something that I know a lot of early career researchers feel that the current job market is really difficult and we perhaps need an overhaul. But in
Mm.
order to do that, you obviously need money in the right places and people in the right place caring about this. I know there are gradually more and more professors becoming aware of this as well, but it's something that we can't change at the postdoc level. Of course, it's really the whole system that needs to be able to change to adapt for this. There's actually talks now, especially we've seen this year that we can do a lot of our work remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So there's now the talk of do we really need to make these postdocs move halfway across the world for their job? Or could
Mm.
they perhaps do it remotely? And this is something that is now, some people are really asking these questions. I mean, as I said, I'm in a lucky position where I can move country and I can afford to move country, which is
Mm-hmm.
also not a given because
For everybody, right?
for everybody, moving is expensive, moving country is tough. So there's now the questions of like, do we actually need this? Should we make postdocs move country? Could I perhaps be employed in another country and still work here at home and just go there once every 3 or 4 months? So
Mm-hmm.
this is a question that people are asking, and I do think it's a step in the right direction towards making it easier and more accessible for more people to be able to get these postdoc positions.
Well, I think. Oh,
But
well, go
it,
ahead.
it's a tough topic, and I don't have the perfect solution of this is what we should do
Of
differently.
course. But I mean, I don't know. It's like global climate change. We've known since the 50s it's a problem. I would think, at least, in America, because I can only speak to what little I might know about that. The system has been broken for decades, and it actually, um, it was an interesting system in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s because you had primarily government, the federal government, funding studies at universities through the NIH or whatever organization, whether it was for National Institutes of Health or whoever was funding, astronomy research and stuff. But I mean, even like big, shiny things that the public wants to know about, right? Those tend to get funded. But the furtherance of human intelligence, in understanding of the universe, knowing even what you do around dark matter, like that isn't necessarily something that is going to make it on National Geographic every week. And so there's just even the funding streams are kind of crazy now because a lot of it's corporate America now funds something and then they want ownership of it too. And then they determine, well, I don't know if we want to pay this much. Could you have a fewer postdocs? Right. I mean, like he's even in who's even in charge of these systems anymore? It's pretty haphazard, I think, at least in the States.
Yeah, I think there's also the thing that every research field will tell you that they don't get enough money, right?
Sure.
And I know that physics does get more money than other disciplines. So we can't completely complain about that. There are many disciplines within the humanities that have lost a lot of funding.
Sure.
So in that regard, science is still getting funded, much less than I would like, of course. But it is the problem of where does the money come from? Who decides? In Europe, a lot of it is based on government grants. Usually, like a professor might get a grant where they can hire 3 or 4 postdocs. So then you can already see the structure that there's one professor, 3 or 4 postdocs. So
Mm-hmm.
there's just not enough positions for the postdocs to go up. But I want to bring up a comment you mentioned before about this, about the competing aspect and the
Mm-hmm.
competitiveness that we need here. This is also something that doesn't really help in terms of mental well-being of postdocs. Is that a lot of our friends and collaborators and colleagues end up applying for the same positions, right? So there are people who I did my PhD with who I consider very, very good friends. And this year, there was probably 7 people who I would consider good friends. This year being September, October 2020. There were probably 7 good friends of mine all applying for postdocs at the same time as me. A lot of us were applying for the same positions, and they can only hire one. And it adds to this here, right? We were all very friendly about it, and we approach it like, look, as long as we all get a position, let's just help each other out. Let's be happy. Let's try to do this together, right? But it does really put you in a position where you have to compete against your colleagues, and you have to try to be the better person. Not necessarily the better person, but the more prominent researcher. And I'm
Hi,
happy
Gemma.
that we were able to keep it very friendly. Hey, Gemma. So I'm happy that we were able to keep it very friendly. But I do know people who have been in this like tight race with friends and end up doing some kind of backstabbing to get ahead, because in some regards it's kind of expected of us. There is this really competitive nature to academia.
Yeah, we need you to take out 3 postdocs, and then we'll give you the job.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much is that, right? I mean, you don't physically take them out, but
Right.
like I know there's one position that I applied for that had over 800 applicants, and they offered 8 positions.
How many?
800.
And they offered what?
8 positions.
Wow, 800.
Yeah, so that's one that I know. I was not on the waiting list. I was not put on the short list. So I was not even among the top like 15.
You weren't even on the short list.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. There's a lot of people applying. It can also be, so the whole application season is kind of crazy. So just to put numbers on it, because I know it's a very different world inside and outside academia. So
Sure.
in this past job market in September, October, we always apply in autumn. So in last autumn, September, October time, I sent off 32 applications. Now, for each of these applications, you have to write a research statement, ideally customized for the research being done at the same place. Some you don't customize so much, some you do, depending how much you care about it. For each one of these, you need to chase down 3 professors to write a letter of recommendation. They can't send it to you, so then for each time you have to message them like, hey, can you upload your letter to this place? Can you send it to this place? Most of them want a CV, and it's always like this place wants a 2-page CV, this one allows a 5-page CV. So
this one wants it in pink. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All of these applications are a bit of work. And of course, the positions you're the most interested in, you'll put in more work, and some you'll just send off as is, and you're like, I'll just try, But I sent off over 30 applications. So now, out of those 30 applications, I had 4 interviews. Or 1 interview I didn't take, but I basically got to the final stages in 4 of them. Right, and I was lucky. I was
so that
lucky.
was 10%. What are we?
Yeah, this is substantially better than the first time I did postdoc applications, where my percentage was lower. It's partly dependent on my CV, on my performance. Of course, there is also a luck factor involved as well, but it can be demoralizing when you're doing this, and some places are going to reject you, obviously. But then it gets to the time when you're starting to hear back from places, if they actually get back to you, because that's a whole other thing that probably about 30% of the places I apply to have not said anything to me. Still haven't heard.
In that, boy, that's just like, I mean, I try never to ghost anybody for an interview or something. Like, set a reminder. For goodness sakes, I would even be happy with a form letter that says, at least we're letting you know that you didn't get it. Send out an automatic
thing. And the thing is, in this day and age, it's so easy to write an automatic script. And you can tell that a lot of the rejections I got are just an automatic message like, dear candidate, we're not considering you, but thank you for the application. Best of luck. And that's fine. But they could just do something. Some places don't even do that. Right. But the ones that do answer, you're going to get rejections. But when they start coming in and it's like every week 2 or 3 rejection emails like, sorry, we're not hiring you. And then you start seeing your colleagues getting offers. It's that moment of, oof, do I need to start thinking of a plan B here? Again, I really cannot complain. I have a really nice position coming up. I'm really happy with how my application season went. So I'm speaking from a position of privilege here because I did have a successful application season, and I am very, very lucky and very happy to be going to Finland.
Well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with every university wanting the best candidate for their work.
Of
You know,
course,
that
of
that
course.
makes sense. But I think again, just there's got to be the number that I have heard in the past is that only 2% of kind of people in general have PhDs. You know, just 2% of people on the planet have PhDs. So it's, you know, that's a lot of people, but still, you know, a small group representative to the, you know, amount of people there are. And if we're losing 40%, 50%, whatever, to um, not being able to get positions. Or I would imagine that there are postdocs that literally burn out, that their mental health has just been, you know, it's so stressful that they're like, you know what, fine, I'll just go. I'm a PhD, you know, I'm in neuroscience. I'm just going to go work for Eli Lilly or, you know, some company there and just give up on my dream of, you know, curing cancer or whatever. But through a university as opposed to just being a cog in the wheel at some, you know, corporate thing.
Yeah, I do know people in that situation, more than one. The thing is, there's many aspects contributing it. So we have this whole idea, right? There's many different aspects contributing to negative health in academia in general. There's this whole lack of job security, which manifests at the PhD level, at the postdoc level. But then there's this expectation that we need to be the best because we know that to get the next position, we need to get up there. We need to be in the shortlist. And of course, you can wow people in an interview, but you need to get to the interview stage. But then there's also the idea there's very much a culture of overworking in academia. I know a lot of academics who will proudly tell you that they work 60-hour week. There are
Right.
many academics who will tell you that if you're not putting in 60 hours a week, you're not fit for academia. Um,
How many hours are there in a week? 100 and
yeah, apparently not enough.
oh, yeah, it's
But
a long.
there is very much this culture of overworking. It's partly self-imposed because in most academic positions, we don't have somebody controlling our working hours. They don't tell you like you start at this time, you finish at this time,
Right.
you know, clock in, clock out. So we have to have self-control over our own time. It's very tempting to go down the thought pattern of maybe if I work more, I'll write more papers, and then maybe I'll be more appealing for the hiring staff, right?
Right.
If you combine that mentality with seeing a lot of professors and people like this telling you, you know, you should be working 60 hours a week, can you get this done over the weekend? Sending emails on a Saturday and expecting an answer like, oh, yeah, can you do this for me tomorrow? This really contributes to this mentality that you need to be constantly working, that anytime that you're not dedicated to academia, you should be feeling guilty. Now, there are a lot of people gradually trying to move away from this. It seems like the younger generations are really trying to move away from this. This is something that really got me during my PhD. I actually had a burnout during my PhD.
Mm.
Part of the reason was the whole thing of, you know, I need to finish my PhD, I need to write my thesis, I need to apply, get my next position, figure out all of that. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life as well. But I was working 10 hours a day pretty much most days. Right? And it's the idea of if I put in this much work, I'm going to be this much more productive. It took me to a very bad place during my PhD, and it took a lot to pull myself out and realize that actually, no, I shouldn't be working 10 hours a day. And if you write me an email on Saturday, it can wait until Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But this mindset is very difficult. And I remember at one point, somebody mentioned to me doing something over the weekend. I'm not going to give any names or point fingers at anybody. But somebody asked me to do work-related thing over the weekend. And I said, yeah, I'll see you do it on Monday. I don't like working on the weekends. The response, this was in the third year of my PhD, the last year of my PhD, once I got through this burnout phase. This person's response was, oh, I didn't know you didn't like working on weekends. It's like, yeah, I'm making an effort to try that now. You know, maybe we should all try this out.
Right. Oh my goodness. Go ahead.
I think it's very easy, especially for PhD students and graduate students who are in this position where we look up to the professors, we try to follow their example. And of course, there are some good professors, and there really are people who care about this. But there's also people who perhaps don't realize, and people who really do love their job and want to put in 60 hours a week, and that's okay for them. But then it sets this expectation that I need to do the same. So this still manifests also at the postdoc level as well.
In America, it has finally changed boy, maybe 10 years ago, I think there was starting to be some pushback because in medicine in this country, you're expected to do like, I'm going to be silly here, but like not really, like 96 hours of being awake and
Yeah.
doing general surgery. Like, yeah, I want that guy to work on my colon who's been up for 72 hours. You know what I mean? I really do. I want him. Like, no, I don't. Like, I want somebody that has had 8 hours of sleep and worked 8 hours a day and is at their best when they have surgery on me. But the attitude of the doctors always was, well, I had to do it. Yeah, I did it. Must have made me a better doctor. So we're going to torture you too. And I think it's this old boys network in medicine anyway that well, hey, you want to be a part of the club, you got to do what we say. And that's just, it just doesn't foster. And I like this idea of younger people, because in fact I just read an article, of all places, it was somebody at Amazon, but at Amazon itself, I know there are decent people, Jeff Bezos aside. Well, unless you want to give me money, Jeff, you're great. But anyway, you can, just like you did. I have an email on 2 a.m. on Friday, and to a colleague, and it took 20 years for Gmail to give us this feature, but I say send that Monday morning at 9. I'm doing my colleagues, I'm respecting them instead of them getting, or in some cases, it's not colleagues, it's people that work for me. And they're like, shit, the boss just gave me a email at 2 a.m. That must mean he wants me to do it now. No, I was just up at 2 a.m. and I hit send. So you can wait to send it, but now pretty much most email systems, we can do that. We can wait and send it, Monday morning, and that culture shift of the younger generation. That's great to hear, because I think that is happening.
And I don't want to say that people should never do this, because some people really do want to work these 60 hours a week and it works for them, and that's fine. If that's
Mhm.
what works for you, that's okay. But it shouldn't be the expectation. And I think some people in positions of power don't realize how their actions influence others, and that if we see these people in positions of authority working in these 60-hour shifts or more, then it's this kind of expectation of I'm supposed to be doing the same. This is something that I believe is gradually changing. But what you just said about sending the email, scheduling the emails is one thing. Now, of course, in science, you frequently have collaborations in different time zones, so that makes it a
Sure.
bit harder. But what I have seen a few people doing, which I really like, is having an email signature that says, my working hours may be different to yours. I don't expect an answer outside of your working hours.
Ooh, I like
And I
that.
love that. I love that because it's just like reply when you can. When you have
I want
time,
to,
you
yeah,
reply
I
to
want to
me.
put that in our correspondence too, that we do, because I talk with people all over the world now and interview people all over the world. And I certainly wouldn't expect somebody, in Malaysia to adhere to my time. I have plenty of friends here in the States that I have a friend that runs runs the country of India for his company, and he time shifts, he works the time that is in India, where his people are. And, instead of, in the old days, they would have sent him to India. But I mean, that makes it pretty rough. But I mean, that's what you have to do for some people. But yeah, um, I think this is something that I hope people, if you're watching this, on replay or in the future, this thing will, live out there forever. If you just, take a moment to think about those things, with the people that you're working with, it really can catch on and can make a really big difference. So, on this topic, is there anything else that you kind of
I,
were itching to cover?
yeah, I was just going to go to something you said before about there's this mentality of, well, I went through it, so you have to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think here we really do have this survivorship bias. Like, some
Mm.
people will not survive this. Some people will burn out and will leave academia because of this burnout. And the people who stay in the system who make it might forget that it was a big deal, or maybe it wasn't a big deal for them. And then it's like, well, all professors I know work this many hours and they were all fine. It's like, yes, because the ones who didn't work that many hours, or who, you only see the ones who actually survived, and it adds to
Mm-hmm.
this survivorship bias. But I did want to make a comment. Like, I talk about this a lot because it's something that I experienced during my PhD, this burnout phase. It's something that pretty much everybody I know in academia has experience at some point. There was a study recently showing that 1 in 3 PhD students suffers from depression or anxiety. That's a very high number.
It's a very high number.
It's a very high number, but I am I am really hopeful that this is changing. I have noticed a slight paradigm shift, especially with younger, not just younger postdocs and PhDs, but also with younger professors. This is actually one of the many reasons I'm really excited to go to Finland is I've heard that they do a lot for the mental well-being of all of their staff.
Hey,
And I've
Pablo.
heard that, hey Pablo, thanks for stopping by. I've heard that there's like a wellness group in Finland where they really take care of all of their staff. Mental health is a big topic there. So it's something that I appreciate going forward, that I'll have a place where I know I can be a bit more open about these things.
Well, that's good too. Even as your friend, I'm happy that that's there, because you were telling me Finland in the winter gets how many hours of light?
About so I'll be in the south of Finland. I'll be in Helsinki, so it's still okay. They get about 4 hours of daylight, 4 to 5. Further in the north, you get maybe 1.
Oh
of
my
course, then it has
goodness.
the opposite in summer, right, where you only get sunlight and like 3 hours of darkness.
Yeah, well, that'll be fun. I mean, that'd be kind of neat, but you're going to have to get something to wear over your eyes, or dark blinds or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I actually have the problem that I'm a really light sleeper. Like as soon as the sun's up, I'm up. So I'm gonna have to really figure out what I do in Finland when the sun is up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, no, I'm not ready to be up yet.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm super excited for you that you're going to be going, to Finland. I think that's really, 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 really neat. I'm excited to find out about the work. And just if you're joining us, I guess I'm still so kind of Clubhouse related in that kind of resetting the room. We have been here for 37 minutes, though, talking about mental health and science and PhDs. And that is one of the great things about HAPS, I think, is that, I have my amazing friend and cosmologist, Dr. Hooper here, and we are definitely going to talk about dark matter and the size and scope of the universe and some of those things too. But to be able to talk about these things is important. You know what I mean? It's certainly important to the work that I want to do when I'm doing things on HAPS. And I just really appreciate that you are open about that, because, not everybody can even talk about it or has the opportunity to talk about it. I mean, I feel like with the HAPS science communicators here, you all have a, I don't know if obligation's quite the right word, but kind of an obligation to your community to represent science well, especially because the public, can be pretty far afield from science sometimes. So I really, appreciate this discussion. And being bipolar, having ADD, having been homeless and been on this mental health journey for the last 10 years and still working on it, mental health is always on the, the front of top of mind to me.
Yeah, it is an important topic, and I think it is gradually being talked about more and more in all aspects, not just in academia. I think in general, there is a bigger push to be aware of this, because mental illness in general, mental health issues are really the unseen disease, right? Not necessarily disease, but the unseen illnesses. If somebody breaks their arm, you don't expect them to just make yourself better. But there's kind of this stigma that, well, it's just in your mind. You can just make yourself better. And I think in the last few years, there really has been a paradigm shift. There are more people talking about it. I mean, now you even have like Prince Harry doing his own mental health Spotify channel.
Ooh, and just getting horrible, from the British press, like, what are you doing? Like, who are these people in the British press? They're 400 years old or something, I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah, the young tabloids have a lot of issues in the UK, and currently racism is a big one of them. Anybody thinking it's anything other than that with Meghan is lying to themselves.
Well, and here's the thing too. I don't want to, we can go down whatever path we want, but from my many new friends in the UK, especially my friends that are Southeast Asian, Indian, from India, it is racism is different in the UK than in the US, right? It's different people, it's different circumstances. But I mean, in certain places in Europe or the United Kingdom, you can be third generation born in the UK and you still have brown or dark brown skin, and like, no, you're not British, you're not English. It's there, and even in a country like Australia, they think they've got it. In America, we think we've got it. No, nobody's got it. There's a lot more work to do. I'll just say that. There's a hell of a lot more work to do everywhere.
Racism and white supremacy are so engraved in many cultures, and it's going to take a while to get rid of them.
But colonialism was spread pretty far and wide. So.
Yeah. I mean, the British really need to pay up for that. They never really suffered the consequences of that.
Talk about reparations, Yeah. I mean, my God, the British Empire was built on it.
And the thing is, a lot of people think this is something in the past, right? It's like, oh no, I'm not a colonizer. This is fine. Yeah, Britain still needs to do a lot in terms of decolonization and paying for what it's done, and accepting its mistakes, because they still like to paint this picture of the perfect British Empire. I mean, and look, all of us have a lot to do on this journey too. None of us, right?
And I mean, here in America, there's still a lot of lip service, and we just had Juneteenth become a national holiday, and my staunch Black activist friends, most of them are like, yeah, well, big deal. It's just another way, to kind of appease us. And some will say, though, but
to do something without actually doing it.
Right. But there has been a little progress. We inch along, and it's just incumbent. I just want to say this. This is just for me. I'm only speaking for myself at this point. If you're white and you don't understand racism, Google it, get a book, DM me. I can recommend about 5 books that will help you start to understand it. Don't depend on a person of color or, somebody that, whether it's sexism, racism, or whatever. Do the work yourself. You know what I mean? There's lots of resources out there, and it really is incumbent on you to do better. So anyway.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, so sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to read things, right? And I think there is the thing that some people in positions of power or privilege who might not realize that they have this privilege can often feel attacked by this. And that's okay, but you cannot take that out on other people, and that's for you to deal with, not for other people to deal with. I think our video feed is frozen.
Yes, I noticed that too. Oh,
let's see.
Coming back. There we are.
We're back now. Yeah, so, we all have to put in the work, and it is scary. And of course, nobody wants to be told that you're wrong. But sometimes we have to accept that we are and move forward. You mentioned reading books about it, and I think that's a great idea. And what I personally found really useful was a reading club of like-minded people set out to, let's read books about this and discuss them together. The first book we read was actually Superior by Angela Saini. Excellent book, really, really excellent book. I really recommend it if you want to learn more about these topics.
What was the name of it?
Superior by Angela Saini.
Can you type it in the thing so people can see it? Yeah, that's great. No, we have done that even with the nonprofit, because we do. We've done racial equity, social justice work for about 8 years, and I've been a consultant for the organization, and I'm a board member. But especially with the folks that are white, we've had actually, what do we call them? Where you learn it and you get paid to learn. You know what I mean? I can't think what that's called right now, but I mean, we have those sessions, and because we're small, we would use the whole staff would want to be a part of it. So we would have, Black, brown, and white people, but reading a book together about racism. And I got to tell you, it can be pretty intense in that room. But just be open, to understanding and really willing to learn and willing to understand that, your feelings probably are going to get hurt, because these are really big things that a lot of people just haven't thought about. And just put your nose in it a little bit, just make an effort. It'll make a big difference if just probably 10% of the people on the planet worked at it a little bit. We could move even faster than we are now.
Yeah, I think we could talk a lot about this because it's a topic both of us care a lot about. But maybe
It
let's
is.
reset the room, as you would say,
Yes,
on
yes.
shift
Let's do
back
some science
to
because,
let's go back to some fun topics. Let's
yes,
not
yes,
be
yes.
all too dark and depressive.
Well, if you want, you pick the first one you want to talk about because we've got a few.
Well, you actually started the conversation ages ago about conferences.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of fun conferences going on. The pandemic has had a pretty big impact on research in many ways, funding issues, people not networking. But a lot of conferences have shifted to online because we can't put 500 scientists in a room together anymore because of COVID.
Right.
And, we shouldn't have people flying all the way across the world for these conferences. This is something we're also beginning to realize. But the good thing about online conferences is it means I can attend more of them, which, in a normal non-COVID year, I would attend 3 to 4 in-person conferences, and that would be enough. That would be great. Then I'd burn through my travel budget, and that's that. But now it's literally just like, oh, there's a conference ongoing, I'm going to join. And I've basically been in and out of conferences for the last 2 months.
I can attest to this because I haven't talked to you much for the last 2 months.
It's like every time you message me, it's like, sorry, I'm in a conference, in another conference. And it's really good because it's really allowing me to learn a lot. And these are all really fun conferences. And next week, there's a conference I'm really looking forward to, which is about how we can be more sustainable as a community of scientists. So it's a sustainability in high energy physics.
Scientist sustainability conference in high energy physics. Is that what you said?
Yep, high energy physics. I'm really looking forward to that one. Yeah. And it's talking partly about this thing that every year scientists fly all over the world to go to these conferences, and do we really need to?
Right.
There's also been a series of flash talks submitted, which I've already started watching, and there are some really fun discussion topics. So I'm looking forward to that conference.
Well,
and then the week after that, I have a 2-week-long conference, which I'm extremely excited about.
Every day, 2 weeks?
Yeah, every day.
Wow.
Not weekends, just weekdays.
And you're speaking there, right?
This is actually one I'm super happy about because it is my first plenary talk. So at every scientific conference, you have people giving the plenary talks, which are kind of like the keynote speakers, and they're usually experts in their field to give 45-minute long talks. And then you have the more the parallel sessions, which are 20-minute talks, and there it's usually more PhD, postdoc students. And giving the plenary sessions is, of course, a big honor and very nice because that means you're considered an expert. And I'm actually giving my first plenary talk at this conference.
Wow. So my friend and favorite cosmologist, the only cosmologist, technically, I know. Well, I do know a couple other physicists, but now you're an expert. I love it.
Apparently.
I love it. I love it.
Apparently I'm now an expert.
That's awesome. You are. You are an expert now. So excellent.
So I keep getting questions like, what have you read new in science lately? And it's like, well, I've been in a conference what feels like for the last 3 months at this point, so I haven't really been keeping up to date with science news, which is a problem.
Well, we've got a little bit.
Yeah, there was one cool story today that I'm sure people might have seen and that I might get asked about a galaxy without dark matter. This is pretty cool to me. So just to give an idea here, everything we know of in the universe, everything we see, everything we're accustomed to, this is normal matter. And normal matter only accounts for 5% of the energy of the universe. Then there's 25% of the energy of the universe, which is in the form of this dark matter, which we should actually call invisible matter. And this is a type of matter that we cannot see. It doesn't interact with light, so light just passes through it. It's really invisible. But it's actually the thing keeping all of the galaxies together. And we know that dark matter is 5 times more abundant than normal matter. So this means that if you take a patch of the universe, there should be 5 times more the amount of dark matter than normal matter. This has been true for pretty much all of our observations. And inside galaxies, it's especially true because dark matter really holds galaxies together. So when you take your average galaxy, you would expect at least 5 times more dark matter than normal matter, sometimes much more. We have even found galaxies that are 60 times more dark matter than normal matter. And 3 years ago, in 2018, there was the announcement of a galaxy. They found a galaxy with no dark matter.
Wait, what? In our universe?
Yeah, right?
It's the only universe we know of, but in our universe, there's a galaxy with no dark matter. Well, no, I mean, like, that's got to blow, like, your guys are all wrong. Like, science is wrong.
This was both fun and exciting, but also kind of annoying. It's like we just thought we were getting somewhere on understanding dark matter, right? We thought we knew what we were doing. Dark matter is in galaxies. That's one thing we know. It's like, no, hello, here I'm a galaxy.
Galaxies can't survive without dark matter, we thought.
Yeah, we thought. So it's like one thing we thought we knew about dark matter. Turns out we were wrong. So this has been an ongoing debate because, of course, when this came out, a lot of people were like, no, you can't be right. Let me recheck. Let me do this myself and recheck.
Which is what science does, of course.
It's what we always do, of course. Half science is proving each other wrong.
Right.
So, or proving yourself wrong. That's also fun.
Right. Oh, yeah. Spend 30 years working on something and oh, shoot, I was wrong. But that's good science. You know, it's still good science.
Like a paper I did this year basically proved something wrong from a paper I did 2 years ago, but that's fine. That's how we move through it. Like someone proved my paper wrong. Yeah, myself. Okay.
Who better than to prove yourself wrong is yourself.
Yeah, at least then it feels a bit less bad, less upsetting, let's say. But yeah, there was this galaxy that potentially didn't have dark matter. So people have been trying to redo this measurement. Like, I mean, just do it myself. People came up with different explanations as to maybe this galaxy is actually further away than what we expected, and therefore it's fainter, or it's closer by, and maybe we've just done the measurement badly. Maybe there's still a way that we can put dark matter in. So there were a couple of papers arguing no, it definitely has dark matter, and a couple arguing no, it definitely doesn't have dark matter. This is how science happens. And now, thanks to the latest, I believe it's the latest Hubble data, or an image from Hubble, they've actually been able to get really, really precise distance measurements to this galaxy. And they've actually found that it is where the first paper said it was, which means it comes back to the idea that based on how far away it is, how much light we see from there, it seems like it doesn't have any dark matter. So we're back at the stage of it seems like this galaxy definitely doesn't have dark matter.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me that they said today that there is a galaxy in our universe that does not have dark matter. Like, yes, how can that galaxy... Go ahead.
They also know why. They have an explanation.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me know. Because I'm worried. Because, did they lose its dark matter? Like, did it decide to leave? You know, I mean...
So usually most of the dark matter of a galaxy, so if you think of a galaxy, you might think of this like flat image with the bulge at the center and the disk. And around the galaxy, there's like a whole sphere, a halo of dark matter. So you can imagine that there's more dark matter kind of all the way around the galaxy, right? It's like if you have a ball, most of it is dark matter, and the galaxy would just be along the center of the ball. What they found is there's actually some tidal stripping. So there's a lot of galaxies close by here that are kind of pulling the matter around a bit. And there's this tidal stripping effect. So the current hypothesis, or the current working idea, is that this galaxy actually did have dark matter in the past, which is good because it's consistent and that we can understand. Yeah. But this dark matter has kind of been pulled away by tidal forces, which are the same forces that actually control our oceans, the movement of the
oceans. Which makes kind of sense considering there are, I don't know how many galaxies there are, but billions of galaxies?
so many. So we expect that there are 100, let me get that number right. There should be 100 billion galaxies in the universe. 100 billion.
Even statistically,
that's 1 by 11 zeros.
Right. Even statistically, one galaxy that's getting the dark matter sucked out by other higher gravitational forces in other galaxies, that makes sense. It probably happens more than this one time, and we just haven't seen them with 100 billion galaxies to look at. And we've probably seen how many since we've been able to look since Hubble, right, has been up for what, 25 years. So, a tiny percentage of galaxies we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there was a recent cosmology experiment that is looking at galaxies and using them to kind of understand the distribution of matter in the universe. And they looked at a small percent of the sky, less than 8% of the sky, 1/8 of the sky, sorry, 1/8 of the sky. And of course, they can't see all of the galaxies in that line of sight.
Right.
And they looked at 300 million galaxies.
300 million. That's...
Yeah. And that is less than 1/8 of the sky.
Right. 300 million.
Yeah. It's
So
pretty
the
cool. So just on that note of numbers, right? There are 100 million galaxies, we think, and every
100 billion.
galaxy, 100 billion. Yes, sorry,
Yep.
100 billion. And we think that every galaxy has about 100 billion stars.
What is that
So
number? Is there even a word for that big of a number?
there are several. I can't remember. It's like quadrillion, billion, something like that. But it is
Mhm.
10 to the 22, which means there are one followed by 22 zeros. That's how many stars there are in the universe.
Well, okay, so that and we can keep this subject going a little bit, but it does segue at least in a moment to this idea that we were talking to about scale and alien life. Both, I think, we can go
Both.
in that direction because again, so many things that like when we talk about. Well, did we finish this subject well enough? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, I guess just so I haven't really read this in depth. As you know, I read this like 5 minutes before we
Right,
got
I
on.
showed it to you, I think, and it
Yeah,
was that the
I
first
saw
you'd
the
seen it.
headline a few times during the day and thought, yeah, I'll read
Gotcha.
that tomorrow. So yeah, I speed read that. But it's really cool because we found this galaxy without dark matter, but we think we have an explanation. But it's still
Right.
cool that there is at least one galaxy without dark matter.
Well, and just
And
can then
mystery
quickly,
solved.
right, quickly, so people do understand science. If you don't quite get it, if it had been determined that the galaxy never had dark matter, or on that level, it would have completely upended just about everything we know
Oh,
about
yeah,
physics in
definitely.
some way, right? I mean, we
Not
could we be
everything.
that wrong?
Oh, definitely. It wouldn't
Yeah.
append everything, just some things about dark matter that we'd have to
Okay.
revisit on formation of galaxies. But yeah, it's absolutely possible that at some point we would find something that shows that we're completely wrong. This would be really fun. Some people have the idea that scientists aren't open to new ideas, right? We like our ideas, we like everything to stay static. And I guess if you've worked on something for 30 years, you kind of don't want it to be proven wrong. But
Hmm.
if we find something unexpected, that's when discovery happens. If we suddenly found something, like all of physics is wrong, it's like, okay, let's go have fun, no rules, let's start again, let's see what we can do. And that is where the fun happens. That is really where we learn the most. And it could be that we find something that just, completely upends the whole laws of physics as we know it. And then we need to figure out what went wrong. But one way I like thinking about science in general is imagine you're trying to draw an atlas of a place you've never fully visited, right? So you're trying to draw this very, very detailed map. And sometimes you might draw a map of a mountain and a river because that's what you've seen around you, and you think, okay, this is a nice area. And then you see other areas and you see other things, and you think, okay, my map is no longer complete. But it doesn't mean it's bad because it is still a very accurate description of that mountain and that river. But it is just one piece of the overall picture. So you don't necessarily rip up the map and start again,
Right.
unless you actually see that maybe it's not a mountain and it's a volcano, or maybe it's not a river and it's a lake, and then you think, okay, I did a pretty bad job here. Let me restart. But most of the time, it's still a piece. It's still part of the information. It's like when Einstein came up with general relativity. This was a whole new way of looking at gravity. But it didn't mean that Newtonian gravity was wrong. It just meant that Newtonian gravity, which is the theory of gravity we had before Einstein,
Right.
it's
And
not wrong. It's just only applicable in a small region. It's only
and
a
Newton
map of a small region.
and Newtonian gravity still works fine for sending a ship from here to Saturn. Like
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah. Newtonian gravity is what we use to understand everything within the solar system, basically.
Right.
But
Right.
that's why any theory of general relativity should reduce to Newtonian gravity in some limits, right? It should recover this limit because it wasn't a bad description. It was just an incomplete
And
description.
Newton saw what he could see, literally,
Yeah.
with telescopes in the physical world. And then, of course, Einstein was able to extrapolate things in his mind, right? I mean, some of what, obviously there's science and there's papers and everything, but I mean, some of the things that Einstein did were literally, nobody had necessarily thought of this before in some cases. And he's putting this together in his head, I think, right?
Yeah, him and the people who helped him, who are
Right. There you go. Give them credit
uh,
too, for sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's
his postdocs. His postdocs.
just an offside comment here that I'm not going to go too in detail with. Just want to
Mhm.
make the comment. We have this idea in science sometimes of the lone genius, and this is an idea
Right.
that people like to hype up. Now, I don't want to take away from what Einstein did. His theory of general relativity is amazing.
Right.
It wasn't completely his own work, though. It wasn't
I've
just
heard
him,
that
and
too.
there's some parts of general relativity that weren't his idea. Perhaps credit was not given where credit should have been given, but I don't want to go into that detail because once you go down that path, it's very easy to upset people.
It is, and
But
I,
yeah,
I, I, I I feel you on that too. And actually, I have read. I think we have more access to um, this openness, even about science. And Einstein. It takes a team. That is definitely how
yeah,
science works. Am I fuzzy to you as
yeah.
well?
You're fuzzy. You're fuzzy.
Hmm. I don't know if I'm fuzzy to the audience out there or not. I'm going to just reset the graphics real quick.
Sure.
Um, but that might be localized. Hey,
And we're
there we are.
back. We literally reset the room.
We did reset the room. So, scale, the universe.
Yeah,
I've been
universe
really in.
big.
Yeah, I've really been intrigued by it because. Thank you. I got an update from a friend, but we've fixed the fuzziness. Um, Scale and aliens. I think these things actually kind of go well in hand. But
Yeah.
let's so we kind of know the size of the universe now, right? More or less.
We know the size of the observable universe.
Observable universe. Is it so what do we think beyond the observable universe? And what that means is the light is it that the light hasn't caught up with us? How does that
Yeah. So just bit my help. I'm very clumsy. So there's two aspects here. We know that the universe has not existed forever. To our knowledge,
Mhm.
the universe is 13.82 billion years old. We also know that light can only travel at a specific speed, which is the speed of light. So when you put these two together, it means that there are parts of the universe that could never have sent us information. They haven't had time to send us information. So we can only actually see a small part. We can only actually see one part of the universe, which we call the observable universe. Now, you might have heard many times we are not the center of the universe. This is, to our knowledge, true. But we are the center of our own observable universe, because the observable universe is defined by the light that's had time to reach us. So this is
Right.
actually a sphere centered around us. We cannot make any comment whatsoever about anything outside of the observable universe. By definition, it is unobservable.
Mhm.
Right? So what we then do is we say, well, we don't assume that our observable universe is special or privileged or unique in any way, and we assume it's a fair representation of the universe at whole.
Would
But
make
we
sense.
cannot, yeah, but we cannot actually verify this in any way. It could be that all of the universe is just the observable universe, and we are actually literally at the center of the universe. It could not be. And we take the approach like there's no reason to believe that we're at the center of the universe. There's no reason to believe that our observable universe is unique. So we think it's a fair representation of everything else. But the universe itself, we have no idea how big it is. But we do know how big our observable universe is. And this is a sphere around us with a diameter of 93 billion light years. So if you were traveling at the speed of light, it would take you
It would take
93 billion years to go from one side to the other.
93 billion years for one
Yeah,
side to the other.
yeah,
That's a while.
96, sorry, 96.
96? That's a long time. That's a really long time.
Um,
Oh,
there's something cool here
mhm.
that I might have picked up on, might have noticed. I mentioned the universe is 13.82 billion years old,
Yes.
right? So from a first approach, you might think that actually the sphere around us should only be about 26 billion light years because, if light travels at the speed of light and we're measuring things
Right.
in light years, then surely it's only had 13.82 billion years to reach us. So we can only see things at a 13.82 billion years away in every direction. And that will give you a sphere of 26 billion
Wait, before you say
light
the
years.
answer. So, does this have to do with the universe moving faster than light at some point after the Big Bang or
Not directly.
no?
Yes and
Okay.
no.
Okay.
It's related, but it's not about it moving faster than the speed of light.
Okay.
It's actually because the universe is expanding.
Ah,
So,
makes okay, total sense. Yes. Hey,
hey
Ian.
Ian, nice to
Thank
see you.
you.
Thanks for the
Great to see
award.
you, man. Feel free to. I know you're probably busy, but feel free to jump in and correct anything I say wrong. Anyway, go ahead,
And
Diana.
correct me as well. Ian, you missed a very fun discussion about mental health in academia that I think you would have appreciated as well. So, yeah, because the universe is expanding, you can imagine that. Imagine a galaxy that is sending light to you, right? But this galaxy is moving away from you. So, if the galaxy is 10 billion light years away when it sends you the light beam, it's going to take 10 billion years for this beam of light to reach you. But in that time, this galaxy has moved further away because of the expansion of the universe. So by the time this light beam reaches you, the galaxy is actually 35 billion light years away instead of the 10 it was before. Which
Mm,
means even though it only took 10 billion years for the light to reach you, it's from a galaxy that is now 35 billion light years away.
wow, physics is freaky.
It is, right? It's fun. But you can imagine this is true also if you have a train moving away from you, right? And somebody throws you a ball from the train and then they move away, then technically it came from a further place, right? It's harder to
Hmm.
do these analogies on Earth, but yeah, because of the expansion of the universe, we have these things gradually moving away from us. So even though it would seem that the observable universe should only be 13 billion light years across, it's actually 43 in radius. 43 in radius? No, it must be I know the total is 90, either 92 or 96. So half of that is the radius.
92, 96. We're
Yeah,
never going to see the whole thing. So,
exactly. So the universe is big. It's ridiculously big.
Douglas Adams, yeah, said
Yeah,
that many times.
and I
Space
think
is big.
big. It's very, very difficult for us to visualize what this means. So yeah, we definitely need to chat more, Ian.
For sure,
We always
Ian,
have
I would love to be
fun
able to
chats.
chat with you sometime, anytime, my friend. I always invite you. You're always invited, and lovely to see you, sir, as always.
So I think in terms of talking about the universe, I mean, I mentioned before that there are 100 billion stars in every galaxy, and there are 100 billion galaxies in the night sky. But these are big numbers. We can't really imagine these numbers properly, right?
Hmm.
Like 100 billion, and we're just like, yeah, that sounds nice. It's the same thing that people can't visualize the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire.
Sure.
Always need to throw in those comments. So yeah,
I'll
100
take the
billion
billionaire, but
galaxies,
you know, I'll take the
100
billion.
billion galaxies, 100 billion stars per galaxy. So that gives you 10 to the 22. That's one followed by 22 zeros.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous. So then we can ask the fun question, which you might have heard from Carl Sagan, which just allows us to put things in perspective. If you take all of the grains of sand on Earth from every desert and every beach, right, every grain of sand on the planet, would you say there are more grains of sand on the planet or stars in the universe? What do you think?
Oh, stars in the universe.
There's 1,000 times more stars in the universe than grains of
That's
sand on the
crazy.
whole
Every
planet.
grain of sand, every grain of sand. Like, think of how small a grain of sand is. There's 1,000 times more
Yeah.
stars in the observable
In the
universe.
observable
By the
universe.
way, by the way, the
Yeah.
observable universe. Well, then I want to swing us a little, unless you want to. I want to swing us a little to aliens, and then
Yeah,
the scale will be in it, I think. But go ahead.
before we go to that, I want to do the
Yep.
scale in the other direction, right? Because
Good. Oh yes, yes, please.
this is huge, right? This is a ridiculous amount of stars. But if you now take 10 drops of water, so just like 10 drops of water, not
Mhm.
much, right? Just a small amount. There are more atoms in those 10 drops of water than there are stars in the universe.
Okay, now you just baked my brain. Wait a minute. So just 10 drops of water has more atoms than stars in the observable universe.
Yes.
Hmm.
So one drop of water has about 10 to the 21 atoms. So 10 drops of water have just about the same amount of stars as there are in the universe.
Wow. Okay, for scale purposes, I think that is really interesting because the size of an atom is well, it's observable, right? I mean, we only observe things smaller than atoms passively, like not actively, right? Passively, like through colliders and things like that. Like we don't really see them. But we kind of see them. Well, that's another day, maybe.
That's
But
another thing.
yeah,
So
it's
just
another day. But
one
the
last comment on the scale thing,
mhm,
because it's also a mind-blowing fact. So we've just seen 10 drops of water. Now, if
right.
you take the average human has 1 million times more atoms than there are stars in the observable universe.
Well, because of what you just told me, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of think when we're talking about scale, that like so this kind of relates a little bit to multiverses and possible parallel universes and stuff like that. But if we just look at our universe with a bajillion stars out there, whatever that number was, the and you have like Drake's equation around possible civilizations out there, and I know there's new takes on that and everything, obviously, but just the fact that some of the things that with that many possibilities, you kind of we're not to the point where in multiverses, like let's say there are multiverses and that becomes like a super crazy number. Just about anything you think of might be happening somewhere else, right? But even just a slight shift, I don't have the, you know, the rain. I have a different pride flag behind me in another, existence or whatever. But I mean, those things, those are fun. But when you talk about aliens, how could we not like how could we, I just don't think it's even with that many stars and that many galaxies and that many, because we have millions or billions of planets that are, what do they call them, rogue planets, right? There might even be more rogue planets than planets even out there. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that determination is. So, and a rogue planet could possibly have life if it has a hot core and it would be subsurface life. You know what I mean? It probably wouldn't be people running around with their iPhones. But I mean, even on a rogue planet, there is a potential for life. So, I mean, how can there not be intelligent life in this universe? Because how could we be the only intelligent life in something so huge? But when you start to talk about scale, is the universe really huge, or is it just the head of a pin in somebody else's universe? I mean,
Yeah, it's difficult questions and difficult topics, and I think one thing we don't think about with aliens, as you say, there are billions of galaxies, billions of stars, many, many, many billions of planets, and also moons. And the thing is, we haven't finished exploring our solar system yet. We don't even
mhm.
know if there's some type of microscopic life forms on some moons of Europa
Right on
and some
Enceladus or something,
Saturn.
right? Right.
Yeah, I did a whole podcast about this. It was awesome. So yeah, if you want to find out, look for the Haps Water Challenge. I did a Haps Water Challenge
Ooh,
about life here within the solar system. It was great
awesome.
fun. So, by the way, I love these Haps challenges. They're so much fun. Anyway, yeah, so we haven't even finished checking out our backyard, right? So it's quite hard to make comments about life in the universe in general when we're still trying to figure out if there's life in our backyard. But there are a lot of factors that could prevent life from happening. So I'm completely with you that statistically speaking, there has to be life out there.
Hmm.
But in order to, you asked specifically for intelligent civilizations,
Hmm.
right? And here there are more things at play. On the one hand, you need to have had enough time in order for species to become
Right.
intelligent,
Right.
right?
Right. And we did it
This
pretty
thing,
fast relative to the Earth's age and everything.
not really. I mean,
Well,
the
wait,
universe, the solar system, the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. Humans
what
appeared.
compared to 13.7, right? I
Yeah,
mean, our local cluster here didn't exist at all, right? And then so we've only been around for 4 billion. So that would to me mean that if you divide 13.8.2 by 4, then you've have that, every 4 billion years you should have the possibility, granted there's a lot of other factors, of an intelligent civilization popping up in lots of places. And by the way, hello, Dr. Hooper's mom, Angela. Hi. Haven't talked to you in ages either. Ooh, look at this ship here. I like this.
Yeah, I just posted a video in the comments, and I don't like that videos autoplay in the comments. But
Life on
anyway,
Rogue Planets.
yeah, this is from a channel called Kurzgesagt. Anybody who follows me regularly knows I love Kurzgesagt. It's a really, really educational channel. It has a lot of cool videos about different science topics with cute animations. It's often really useful for me because anytime I'm preparing a broadcast, it's like, oh, I want to talk about life on rogue planets. Let me Google that. And the first thing I find is a video by Kurzgesagt. It's like, okay, let me watch their video to figure out what I'm explaining today. So if you don't know Kurzgesagt, do check them out. And this is why I just posted their video there because it's my favorite
That's awesome.
channel. So just needed to put that in there. So yeah, there is this thing that we need enough time. And here there's another aspect which we need to consider of how does time progress. Now we know that time is relative, right? And how we experience time is not the same based on the gravitational field, based on movements. If you consider a star that has more mass than the sun, planets there would experience time differently, right?
Okay, hold on. I can think of so the sun is kind of an average size star, and we have like stars that are a million times bigger than the sun, I would think. So that's like a red giant or something. And it's going to push out to what, Earth, a red giant in size, maybe. So again, I'm totally making this up, but you stick a planet out into the Goldilocks zone of the red giant, not of our sun. You put a planet out there, and you're saying that time would be different for them than if we could somehow instantly call them, and say, what time zone are you in? They'd be like, well, time flows differently. Is that what you're saying? That the speed of time is different?
The passage of time differently than what we do. I mean, to a degree, if you're on the tip of Mount Everest, you experience time very slightly differently to somebody at sea level.
Because of the distance?
To the gravitational force, yes.
Right.
So if you're on a planet of a different size, around a star of a different size, time passes differently. So that adds a complication to, have they had enough time to evolve into an intelligent species? What does this mean? Because time is not an easy concept. I noticed we forgot to do the very good thing. Christian, thank you for the great topic award. We really do appreciate the awards. Thank you, Christian. And thank you, David. I see we have a lot of the scientists in here. This is awesome.
It is awesome. I'm honored
make sure
to
you
have all
follow
of you
everybody
here.
in the comments. Make sure you follow
Yes,
everybody
for sure.
here in the comments. So
and hello to everybody.
There is this aspect of what does it mean to have had enough time to evolve into an intelligent species? But then there's the other aspect that I like a lot, getting a bit nihilistic. There are so many ways the universe could kill us, right? The fact that we're here is a miracle.
Yes,
the fact that we're alive is a miracle.
It's coming. I just got an update. The sun has just ejected half of itself. We've got 8 minutes, 9 minutes max.
But there's also these things. There are stars that, if they're pointed at, stars that have these like massive explosions, and if they're pointed at specifically the right direction, they could wipe out all of life on Earth.
Although I thought there wasn't anything directly in line for us that could take us out. Again, maybe a subject for another day. But
we don't think so.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that there's a lot of planets that aren't so lucky that could easily be wiped out. So while I agree with you that based on the amount of stars, based on the amount of galaxies, based on the amount of planets, I am absolutely sure that somewhere in the universe there is another intelligent species having similar conversations. I'm sure of this.
Well, and go ahead.
I think life is less common than we would expect it to be given these numbers, because we do have so many ways the universe can prevent life from happening.
Yes. And Carl Sagan, I think, spoke to, if I'm correct, that, you've got to get past this time that we very much are in, which is once you discover nuclear energy and the possibility of self-destruction of all of us through nuclear weapons. I mean, there's a lot of phases even in an intelligent civilization, making it kind of to the point where we're all like, ooh, we all get along, no more capitalism, everybody eats, we're doing science, we're doing art, we're just being groovy beings beyond what we are now. Could be very difficult to do. Now, that said, too, if we're looking at intelligent life, like if the factor of not being able to actually talk to somebody, in another galaxy, for example, but if we could break that barrier, um, there could have been intelligent life. I mean, we're not, I think humans think we're going to be here forever. We're not. I give us
We're not.
anywhere from a week to 2 million years max. You know what I mean? I don't think we'll survive 2 million years, honestly. But if we can get out to the stars, a little bit, well, to the stars, and then we got to be able to fold space. If we can get off this planet, we might be able to survive long enough. But we could be talking about entire civilizations that have come and gone, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Over the course of 8.2 billion years or whatever. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
also the thing of has an intelligent species formed, and is it still alive in the same time frame when we are?
right,
But
exactly.
there is this
Same time
comment here
frame.
by Christian that even though it is less common, there are so many places, there are so many probabilities, and there are so many places where there could be life in the universe. I think
Hmm.
it would be
Hmm.
arrogant to assume we're the only ones.
Well, it's just
But
funny because, go ahead.
there is this aspect of arrogance in the way we go about looking for life, right? Because we have this very much Earth centric approach to life. As far as we know, every living thing has at least four ingredients, which are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen.
Hmm.
Every life form we know needs these four things. We also know that pretty much everything needs some amount of potassium as well,
Right.
right? But this is because this is how life has evolved on Earth. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the only way life could evolve.
Right. And DNA, right, could be like, well, I think would be interesting too on one of the moons, because you said, really, I like talking about this life, because we know we have life on Earth, in extremophiles, right? So some extremophile on a moon of Jupiter or whatever, if that didn't have DNA, or it had something like DNA but was not our DNA, like that would be huge. That would
Yeah,
be,
that will
that would be
completely change our
profound.
whole understanding of life.
Right. And that would maybe make it be like, oh, maybe life is, pretty possible. But um those kind of things, people want little aliens. That's great. Whatever. Makes for good TV shows and things like that. Strangely, in Star Trek, all alien life is generally bipedal
Yeah,
and look
yeah,
pretty much like us,
exactly.
except with a bigger nose or something, or ears. But let's talk about that a little bit from the physics standpoint, because I wonder if and then let's read the comments too. But because we had like dragonflies the size of like school buses when there was a lot more oxygen. Like, let's say you're on a planet that is Jupiter. Yeah, it couldn't be Jupiter in size. Too much gravity. But let's say 3 times bigger than Earth, right? Probably we would have a tough time on that planet, but somebody could be that big. But even within physics, isn't there's got to be like a physical limit to the size of beings and all these things that have to come into play to even like, and then to me, like, this brain is such a complex structure of a billion years of evolution to come up with this. It's hard to think statistically, like, there's just, if there's life out there, do they all look like us because it's just so easy to make life? Or you know what would
This
other
is a,
aliens look like?
this is actually a fun topic. So we recently did a broadcast, some of the scientists here on House, which was basically talking shit about, not necessarily talking shit, but talking about what science fiction gets right, what it gets wrong, what annoys us,
Hmm.
what we love.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was a
Hmm.
really, really fun broadcast. Georgia hosted that. It was excellent.
That was
And
awesome.
this is one of the things we talked about, right, as to what alien life should look like. Why does it always look like humans, other than it's easier to budget for that? There's absolutely no reason to assume that they would look like humans. There's really no reason to assume that they would act like us in any way. There's also the fun thing that, our eyes have evolved to see a specific range of the electromagnetic frequency, which
Right.
is given by the frequency of our sun, right? We have a nice sun here, we see in this specific frequency. So then you can ask the fun question of if a species is on, for an example, a very ultraviolet star, and they evolved to only see in ultraviolet light.
Mm.
Would they be able to see us?
Mm.
Would we be able to see them? Could there be an
They could be
invisible
here right
alien
now.
species? So
Okay, wait.
this does go much more into science fiction than science. I should
But
add
you
that
did say,
disclaimer.
wait, you did say interestingly, could they see us? It would make sense that they might not be able to if they can only see in the ultraviolet. Though, do we bounce ultraviolet light off of us? One, and then the other thing is, could we see them? That's
What?
that's that's hmm.
That's a different
You,
question, right?
yeah, a
And then it
totally different
depends what they're
question.
made of.
Yeah,
And
right, exactly.
yeah, these are the fun type of questions that we can't actually answer yet, but we can discuss how possible they are. There's also one that appears often in sci-fi of like, could life be silicon based?
Right.
Silicon is quite a good candidate because it's in the same group as carbon in the periodic table. It's also what we call a tetravalent, so it has the right amount of bonds that carbon has. So it is a pretty good candidate. We have already seen, so I mentioned before that to our knowledge, most life forms need some type of potassium. But we
Okay.
have already found species here, we have found species here on Earth that can work with arsenic instead of potassium.
Right.
That's toxic to most life forms, but there are some life forms here on Earth that substitute potassium for arsenic.
Let's jump
So
into the
then,
comments because
yeah,
Christian's given
definitely.
us some. Go ahead. Christian's got some good stuff there.
Yeah, so I saw we had the comment there of the less common but for life, but more sandboxes. So Alpha Centauri is the closest star to us, and it's 4.2 light years away, which means if you were traveling at the speed of light, it would take you over 4 years to get there. And with our current fastest rocket, as Christian says in the comments, it would take us 150,000 years to get to the closest star.
Christian, there is that little packet idea of these small, I think they're even smaller than a self, that would be beamed through a laser, which I'm not sure we've invented yet. But you take a laser and you shoot it out against these small little receptors, basically little cameras out there, and you can get them up to something I heard like 20% of the speed of light or something. So they would get there in about 20 years or 30 years, but then they'd actually be able to return the signal faster. I think because they're already there. But I mean, you know, it is conceivable with a couple technological leaps that aren't impossible, that maybe my son could see Alpha Centauri, an image of it imaged from 93 million miles away as opposed to, 4.6, million light years or whatever. So I think it's possible in the next 100
It is
years we
possible.
could see another star system.
It's possible. I'm hopeful that we will get there at some point. But
Right.
again, it just comes to the idea of how hard it is to find life because
Right.
we really can only just look in our backyard.
Well,
Right. But
because
it's really
we
fun to ask this
mhm,
question of what would other life look like because there's no reason to assume that it would be carbon based. There's no reason to
right,
assume they would have the same eyes as us, the same system. And there is definitely no reason to assume that they would look like humans. They would
right.
probably look like crabs. Nature likes crabs.
Crabs.
Crabs have
Nature
evolved like
likes
7
crabs.
times. Yeah, the crab has actually evolved like independently around 7 times. Nature just likes crabs.
Really?
It keeps making
Hmm.
new crabs. It
I
seems to
love
be
it.
an
Well, it's kind of
optimal
like
form of evolution.
if aliens came to the planet and they would be like, "Oh, look at those bags of water. Oh, okay. There's the species, all of the bacteria that's in us, because there's more of that than anything." They'd start to try
Yeah.
to talk to the bacteria. That's not my original idea, obviously, but I mean,
Also octopus.
what's that?
Also octopus. Octopus and crows are so smart.
Somebody was, in the woo woo science people trying to say octopuses aren't even from Earth. But anyway, we're almost at an hour and a half, which was our agreed upon time. So first, let's not wait 2 or 3 months to do this again.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of
Time just
conferences,
flies
but
when
oh
we're
my,
chatting. It's like we're already
yes,
an hour and a half into this.
boom, because we could do this probably for 4 more hours.
Yeah,
And
especially on the topic of aliens. It's just so
yeah,
fun.
and because you can't stop. But I do want to say, as we're at the end of this, because if you've been watching this and you're hearing all these big numbers and all these big ideas, and that 96, what was it, million light years across? What was the universe?
Billion, 96
Billion.
billion
Okay.
light years,
Oh
and that's
God,
just the
billion.
observable
Good luck.
universe.
So all of these things that we're speculating, humanity could get extremely lucky over the next couple of million years that I've given humanity. I've determined that humanity is going to be around for, but it's very possible, even if we survive 2 million years, that we will never know if there's life out there at all because the distances are so vast. We only looked at 1/8 of the sky and we had 300 million galaxies, and those weren't all the galaxies we could see, even in that 1/8 of the sky. So i think it's I think it's probably likely that there has been other intelligent life, and there will continue to be over the next 100 trillion years as the universe drifts apart. But Deanna, like, I know this should maybe be our next topic for our next show. Hey Chris, oh, great to see you, buddy. um like, can we fold space? Could we figure it out? Could it alien civilization that has a Dyson swarm and they've harnessed all the power of their sun, to give them unlimited energy? Could they? Could we fold space? Because if we can't, I'm going to be really bummed because I want to meet some aliens.
So, if we could fold, I'm going to give the short answer here. If we can fold space-time, everything we know about physics is wrong.
Oh, damn it.
Which
Everything.
is fun. Not
That'd be
necessarily
great. I'd love to
everything,
prove
but
that wrong.
there would be a lot that we would need to rethink. Faster than light travel, we need to rethink physics.
Well,
Basically,
okay.
any of these sci-fi ideas that let us travel and communicate to aliens, we would need to rethink some things about physics.
And both Star Wars and Star Trek do it differently, which is always a good conversation. But and did you ever watch Battlestar Galactica, the one from the mid 2000s? Oh my
I
God,
have to
you
admit
have
that
to watch
I
that.
not. I know so many people tell me that.
Oh my
Anytime I want a new sci-fi show, I just rewatch Firefly.
Oh, this is another reason why we love each other, because I
love
love.
Firefly.
We should watch that together somehow.
I just finished watching it, and I'm like, oh, I haven't watched Firefly in a while.
I'm going to come to Finland and watch Firefly with you because that would be really fun. And I remember when I would first watch it, whatever source I had wasn't playing it in the episode order that he intended. So then I got to watch it in the order that I was like, oh, it's different. Cool. So yes, watch Firefly, folks. It's awesome.
I just need to say to see what Chris is saying here. I agree. Stargate SG-1 is an amazing series.
I agree
Samantha
too.
Carter was a huge inspiration to me.
Oh,
but
that's awesome.
One of my favorite sci-fi shows is actually Farscape, and I think Farscape doesn't get enough love because they did so many things right, and it feels like it's a really niche show that not enough people know. If you've never seen Farscape, check it out because it was really well done. Really,
that is one I definitely need to put on my list. Hey, the world was once flat, so anything is possible. There you go, Chris.
Yeah,
well, that's a good way to end it.
Yeah,
do we need to hunt for any flat earthers? Are there, because they always pop up on apps once in a while? So
and someone keeps reporting them, and then they get taken.
I wonder who that is.
I don't know. No idea.
Couldn't get away with the Muppets in that.
Yeah. So I mean, some people used to think the Earth was flat. We've had these times where we realize actually we're completely wrong. And honestly, I'm here for it. Let's revolutionize physics. Like, throw it all out and start again. I'm here for it.
Yep.
Well, keep me in a job.
Definitely. Let's work towards folding space. Or Dr. Kip Thorne, if you're listening, I know that as soon as any matter, any particle gets into a conceivable wormhole, it would close the wormhole. But let's, figure a way around that. Yes, let's try to keep it open. And I know wormholes are supposed to be probably pretty small, but let's get one big enough for a spaceship and let's go have some fun, because I love the Earth. But man, it's such a human thing, right? The even going from the Americas, from the east to the west, adventure, exploration to Mars, right? There's always this argument of, well, let's just send robots, it's safer. But humans, we want to go, we want to touch it. We're tactile
because we can, because it's there. Humans like adventure. We're not so good with our survival instinct. right? It's like nature's done a pretty good job in keeping us alive. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get people like, I'm going to jump out of a plane with a parachute because I can. Like, sure, go for it.
Are you
Do these
not
things, be
skydiving
crazy.
anytime soon, Deanna?
I actually wanted to do bungee jumping for many
Ooh,
years
yeah.
until I calculated at what speed you would hit the ground if your bungee rope broke. I
Mm.
do not recommend doing that.
So you
Yeah,
would be faster than, um,
I mean,
would
you'd
you
reach
be?
terminal velocity.
Yeah, it's just terminal velocity. Ooh,
Yeah, just, yeah.
I
Yeah, but
I have
I
seen
calculated like
I
the
have seen
G-force if it snapped and what would happen if the rope snapped. And it's like, maybe I don't want to go bungee jumping just yet.
I have seen the results of someone who reached pretty close to terminal velocity, and they were covered with a plastic cloth, and it wasn't a very thick, you know, amount of matter under there. So yes, you don't want to reach terminal velocity. It's, the fall doesn't kill you. It's that quick stop. So on that note,
Yeah, falling is
um,
fine.
yeah, that would be great, until bloop. But it's about
But yeah,
time to take a big physics shakeup. I'm ready. Me too,
I'm
Chris.
here for
I'm
it.
all
I'm
for
here
it.
for it. If you have any ideas on how we should do that, let me know. I'm always happy for new physics ideas.
Well,
And
I've
I do
seen
get
the example. All you do, you take a piece of paper. It's easy. Just
you
go
put
like
a hole
this.
in it, you put it together. Yeah.
Right. And you just go like this, and then boom, look at that. I'm across the universe like that. That's all
Yeah.
we got to do. It's that
We
simple. I can do it
we
with a
just
piece
need
of
to figure
paper.
out how to do that with space time.
Yes. I guess it's not the same as paper. But
A bit
much
harder.
love to you, Deanna. This was so fun.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me back on the show.
yeah, thanks for being here. Listen, folks, scoochcase.com, SCOOCH case.com. Click your phone in the case before you show it and do a commercial so it doesn't drop to the ground. And check out Scooch Case. Also, check out the Club Deck app because they're a sponsor as well. But thank you again, Deanna. Everybody that showed up: Chris Gales, Deanna Hooper, David Howden, Ian. Joy was here, Gemma was here. If I Helga was here, if I missed anybody, Nazib was here. Much love to you. Thank you for coming. If you're watching this on replay, look, follow everybody that was here. Follow Dr. Hooper. Follow Ian. Follow Issa. Follow Georgia. Follow all of our just wonderful science communicators that are here because, look, Deanna is named after a character on Star Trek, and she was very much inspired by science fiction to become a physicist. And this is the kind of show that I hope someday that somebody will come to us and say, "Hey, I saw your show when I was 15, and now I'm a postdoc," and that kind of thing. That stuff does happen. So science is a
I
big
mean
deal.
that's one of my main reasons for doing outreach, right? If I just reached one young girl and show that person that science is here for everybody, and there are women in science, and we're here, and we're doing a good job, and you're always welcome here. So
Yes,
yeah,
and
I'm happy if anybody sees this. If anybody wants to reach out to me about science, I'm always open to questions.
same for me in that I will direct you to some amazing people because I know a lot of them. Did you know the woman who played her mom? Wait, oh, is Roddenberry's wife? Yes, she also was like a nurse, and she was the voice of the computer as well, and she was a nurse. A blonde. I can't remember what character she played, but she was a reoccurring character. But thank you everybody for coming. This was awesome, Deanna. Yes, we maybe try and do this in a month or something. Maybe we could do it once a month. Maybe we can figure out a way to do that. That would be fun.
We should definitely set that up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll talk to you soon. But hey, this is a way we get to talk to each other too. So for
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
thanks for
Finding a
watching.
gap.
Deanna and I just catching up with each other. So
Yeah,
thank
we
you for
found a
watching the
gap in
show.
our schedules finally.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you very much. This live broadcasting seems to highlight the female science communicators better than a lot of social media does. Thank you, David. And listen, gentlemen, the ladies are here and they're not going away. So deal with it. All right, everybody. Thank you, Deanna. Much love. Thanks, everybody. Peace be with you.